Hello and welcome to this week's WCS Game Day. I'm your co-host, Jeremy Qualls, and as always with me, my co-host, Tate Mathews. We're here to talk about last week's football action. This week's football action, Week 10 is coming up. Week 9 is in the books, and we're getting to the nitty-gritty, the meat of the schedules for the WCS Sports Conference. But before we get to that, let's talk about what's happened this last week in the volleyball world. The TWSAA State Championships were held at Siegel High School in Murfreesboro, and the Brentwood Lady Bruins, amongst all the hurdles thrown at them, amongst the place they played and the crowd that they had to go to face against, the adversity that became the 2014 TWSAA State Champions, Tate.
10, that gives them 10 for the program, 1 for the thumb. We talked about it all year long. Barbara Campbell, I did not know this. This is her 17th trip to the state championships in volleyball. She's won 10 of them. That's over half of them. You know, you can stack that career up there with anybody. But you're right. They won 62, I think, in a row. So they had not lost since the beginning of the season. And then the way they won it, unbelievable. They're down 2 sets or 2 matches, however you want to call it, to Farragut. Great AAA program out of East Tennessee. They had to fight back and win 3 in a row. That's unbelievable. That just goes to show the determination and the toughness of those Lady Bruins. 10 state championships, unbelievable, and I guarantee you they're probably the favorite to win it again next year too.
Well, they went into the game, and I got to catch the game against Siegel. That was the first round game. Both came into that particular match undefeated in a double elimination event, and their crowd was huge. I bet they had 500 to 600, maybe even more of that in their student section. It was loud. You would have thought we were at a basketball game. The Brentwood Bruins section came, and they were representing well. And about the third set of that match, the crowd from Siegel was quiet and ready to go back to class. So it was interesting to watch them beat Siegel, who was nationally ranked at the time. But Farragut gave them some trouble early, like you said. I mean, their backs were literally against the wall. They lose that third set, it's over. You know, the 60-game win streak is snapped. But they go in, they win that third set 25-20. And then win the fourth set 25-21. They go into that fifth set and win 15-11 in dramatic fashion. Congratulations to Barbara Campbell, 10 state championships. They've moved up to 4th in the national rankings at Max Preps, and I would love to see those top 4 teams play each other in a round-robin tournament.
I just want to know who they are. If there's 3 better than them, I want to know who they are.
Well, congratulations to the Lady Bruins once again. Ravenwood and Page also participated and were well represented for the WCS Sports Conference. Unfortunately, Page gets put out early, as well as Ravenwood. But Ravenwood, 17-2 in soccer. Girls soccer is playing Hardin Valley, who's 18-1-2, coming up this week. This is the opening round of the Soccer State Championship. So good luck to those guys. They'll be playing on Wednesday at 4:30. G2 Bar is strong this year with all their sports, representing so far in golf state, representing so far in soccer, volleyball, and we know that the football state playoffs are around the corner and they're going to be going in undefeated probably.
Having a great year athletically there. It's kind of interesting. You talked about that Hardin Valley game. Ravenwood obviously was split off from Brentwood. Hardin Valley is split off from Farragut. And if you know anything about girls soccer in this state, Farragut and Brentwood, 2 of the dominant soccer programs from years here. And so they're very similar schools, and it's funny now they're meeting. It just goes to show how much. Can you imagine if Ravenwood, Brentwood was still together? The talent in football, volleyball, girls soccer, boys soccer. I mean, it really is amazing. So that is a heck of a run for Ravenwood, and they got after Hendersonville big time this weekend. They look like they're set for a state tournament run.
Sure did, and they had to beat also Franklin in this run to get into the situation, beat them in double overtime. And
came down to penalty kicks.
Came down to penalty kicks in dramatic fashion. Win that match, go on and play Hendersonville to put them out to make that look like a scrimmage almost. And then this would be an interesting draw for them off the bat with Hardin Valley. So this would be an interesting state tournament in soccer, and I wish those guys the best of luck. Week 9 is in the books. We had some great games. Once again, Indy is coming in on the wire there on the game with Franklin. But let's first talk about Brentwood. Brentwood comes in 2-7, 2-3 in the district, playing Ravenwood, who's undefeated. What do you know about that game?
Battle of the Woods. We knew that the both teams were going to be very pumped up. Brentwood busted out the black jerseys again, so you know that was they were looking for a little added motivation. But what we thought would happen if Ravenwood came and played well it was going to be really tough for the Bruins to have much of a shot to win, and that's what happened. They played hard, like they have all year long. They were just outmanned, and Ravenwood played well. Cole Brown continues to play well from the quarterback position, 3 touchdowns, had a couple of interceptions. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. Once we get into the playoffs, start seeing some Blackmans, Oaklands, that can't happen. We're not going to be able to get away with it there. But then the Rowland brothers, a shade under a combined 200 yards, so they ran the ball well. Van Jefferson only 2 catches, but Austin Percy came up big again. I believe he had 7 catches for 127 yards, 2 touchdowns. The defense played well for the Raptors. They were up early on. I think it was 38. They scored all 38 points in the first 3 quarters. So Ravenwood still undefeated. That was a game where maybe they could not play well. They did not do that. They came out and played well. That shows the maturity level of this team heading into the playoffs. Raptors looking really good. Brentwood's got one more game, and let's get ready and start building towards 2015.
That's right. And once again, the added pressure of this game, the Battle of the Woods, both student sections, fantastic. We're going to talk about the student sections come after Week 10. We'll have the student section power rankings will come out. But, right now, Ravenwood's got everything going for them. The student section, their football, their soccer, just like we've talked about, things are going fantastic.
I tell you one quick thing, Coach. I forgot about this. Coach, I talked to Coach Hester this weekend. He said the Ravenwood student section was on the visiting section of Brentwood 70 minutes before the game, and they were chanting, "We can't hear you," to the other side, which there was nobody in there yet. Now, again, because it was 70 minutes, that's unbelievable. That's a big step towards #1 power ranking in student body sections.
Well, once again, those student sections are going to be based on who travels the best, who has the largest size, classiness involved, and a lot of other things that go. Pep rallies that I've been to there are unbelievable. I mean, that student section, that school has got so much mojo going for them right now. In Brentwood's defense, they were playing for their 10th state championship in volleyball, so that could have split the Brentwood High School. Split their student section up a little bit. However, even if they were there 100%, I'm afraid G2 Bar still would have invaded their side. But congratulations to Ravenwood. Moving on, 9-0, 5-0 in the district, beating Brentwood 38-7. Moving on, Centennial, 8-1, 4-1 going in to Dixon. We knew they're coming in off that bye. And, we talked about this possibly being a trap game. This was not a trap game at all. They rolled 43-7. What do we know about that game, Tate?
Almost, it was very similar to the Brentwood-Ravenwood game. This was a game where if Centennial played well, did what they were supposed to, they should win and win pretty easily, and they did that. It's not the worst trip in the world. Dixon's a great place to play, but not easy to get to. So maybe that kind of gives you a little playoff flavor there if you're going to have to go on travel. So the kids it was probably their longest bus trip of the year. They had to deal with that and make sure they didn't let that become a distraction. But they got in there, they got up early, played well. Deion Sanders and Tyrell Dotson with 2 touchdowns. That running game is really, really playing well. Emmanuel Hall, Coach, it looks like he's getting healthy. 6 receptions, 153 yards, 2 touchdowns. And when he plays well, that just adds such a dynamic to that offense that you can't just concentrate on those 2 guys in the running game, and he is so explosive. So when he plays well, I think Centennial's got a chance to beat anybody. The Roth youngster and Connor Rietveld still splitting times. Rietveld got the most of the snaps and most of the passing yards this week. Main thing, all they want out of those 2 guys is manage the game, be efficient. Connor Rietveld, 3 for 6, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. That's what Coach Rector wanted.
Well, I think this is that breakout game for Emmanuel Hall that we've been looking for. We've had 1 or 2 plays a game or 1 play a game in the past where he can break for 60, 70 yards. He's a difference maker. He has that gear that nobody else has. That's why he's going to the SEC. It's so obvious when you watch these guys play. We have great athletes all over the field, but when he hits that gear, that's a gear that nobody else has, and I'm sure right here he was excited to go 6 catches for 153 yards. Van Jefferson last week had 275 yards on his game, so the stars come out when need be, and this is a good game for Emmanuel Hall. I love it that the fact that Coach Rector's got his guys going. Centennial, this is great. I'm sure Coach Rector loves it. Centennial's kind of been under the radar. They have 1 loss, that's to Ravenwood. flying under the radar. Let Ravenwood get all that pub,
That's right.
and then go into this playoffs maybe with one loss and see what happens. And we know that the huge game coming up this week between them and Franklin, which we'll talk about later. But right now, it seems to me that Centennial's rolling pretty good.
They're playing very well. And you're right, it has been kind of quiet. They've never made it into the top 10 in the Mid-State, and that's fine. Remember, if they can win this game next week against Franklin and have one loss, they're going to host at least one home playoff round in 6A. That's big.
Man, that's going to be fun to talk about. We'll talk about that in our second segment. But the WCS TV Play of the Week came from the Independence-Franklin game where we had a double reverse. A double reverse from Franklin right now, and Dr. Defense rolled the dice in overtime for the double reverse. In overtime for the actual quarterback handing off and receiving the touchdown in the same play. Here it is. Watch the play of the week. We'll be right back.
Third down, just inside the 10, maybe about the 8.5. Critchlow has yet to throw in a pass. Grimes, double reverse.
He's going to pass it, looking to pass.
Going to throw to Critchlow.
In the corner, touchdown.
Got it! Evans to Critchlow. Dial it up. Touchdown. Rebels.
He could not have had more than a half a foot to get both of those feet down there on the corner of the end zone. Well, they had everybody shifted over to the left there, and everything was going that way.
Including the D lineman, 54.
And they bid on it.
So Critchlow says, I can run it, I can throw it, and I can catch it.
Credit these Franklin receivers. They've definitely held on to the football tonight.
Now, you talking about rolling the dice. Dr. Defense right there went for it. Now, he's known for his defense. I bet he was on the other end of the bench when they called that play, and I bet he wanted to throw his headset down. But after it happened, hands in the air, touchdown to take the lead in overtime.
We'll talk more about it when it gets into their game. That was an unbelievable play. But Dan Winfrey, the offense coordinator, we're going to talk more about it later. What a great asset he's been to Coach Webb, Dr. Defense. I'm guaranteeing you what happened is he told him to call it, and then he walked down the other side. Like you said, he didn't have time to think about it. But what an unbelievable play. And, hey, what an unbelievable catch by Joe Critchlow, man. He not only had to catch that thing, then he had to make sure he got his feet in bounds or he'd been out. That kid, man, you can't say enough about what a gamer Joe Critchlow is.
Well, you know, it's natural for Joe to roll out to his right and make that throw across his body. However, when they handed the ball off, I'm sure they have practiced it, but it's not a natural to the guy that threw it to Critchlow. Like you said, he came back, had to come back, underthrew it just a hair, but tough catch in traffic, in overtime against Indy with bragging rights, not only bragging rights, playoff implications on the line. Makes the catch, gets his feet in bounds, touchdown in overtime to go, and then the Dr. Defense dials it up. So Independence comes back, scores, goes for 2 in the win, and gets stuffed on the goal line.
It's just heartbreaking for Independence. You look at how many just so close they've had all year long. Nothing on that play of the week. Let's talk about Kyle Evans now. Talk about pressure and talk about poise. I'm willing to bet that's the only pass that young man's thrown all year. He put it in there, man. So congratulations to him, too. What a great pass there. But you're right. Independence comes back. They score. Coach Blade goes for 2. They come up short. It is just, I mean, they are that close, maybe being undefeated for the year, except for maybe the Ravenwood game. One loss.
I'm telling you right now, we talk about this every week. Independence, there's somebody on that other side in that quadrant looking at matchups right now thinking if Independence comes in as the number 4 seed on our side, they're going to try to throw a game to get the 2nd seed. I'm telling you right now, Independence, this record at 5-4, 2-3 in the district is no indication of who they've played all year long and how they've lost. So I'm telling you, the Indy Nation right now is sitting on the bubble. When they get in, they're gonna put somebody on upset alert.
Ain't no question. I would not want to see them come playoff time at all because their first half, they start off like, I mean, gangbusters the first half. If they ever put a second half together that's like their first half, you're in trouble. I mean, they can score and score quick. Literally, they have 3 games where it's a matter of plays between 3 wins and 3 losses.
That brings us to the WCTV Game of the Week. Before we go to break, let's talk about the Fairview page, the WCS Sports Conference Division II rivals. Fairview coming in at 5-3, 4-3. Page coming in on a 4-game winning streak at 6-2. And, these guys are not in the same district, but they are cross-county rivals. Big game for these guys. Bragging rights on Lindsay. It was at Fairview. Great atmosphere. Fairview, the Jackets were stinging. Things were going on there. And, Fairview pulled off the big upset, 17-13, to snap the 4-game winning streak for Page.
That's a huge win for them. We thought, or at least I did, going into that game, Fairview was outmanned, but they played well. Hunter Zimmerman played well. We talked to Coach Hughes. He said Hunter Caldwell, their sophomore tailback, had to play well if they were going to win the game. He did. 22 rushes for 108 yards, played very well. Before the game, both coaches told us they thought it was going to be 40 to 80 points, 100 points, and then this game ends up being 17-13. Great win for Fairview, and remember they were in their pink jerseys. I still, the Yellow Jackets in pink, it was a neat deal, but that just didn't look right, did it?
Well, I think Coach Hughes might want to bring those pink jerseys all the way out with that big win for them. But congratulations to the Yellow Jackets, man. They have turned around. They've got everybody healthy. Hunter Zimmerman's rolling. They could be a tough matchup as well come playoff time. Right. They're sitting at 6-3, 4-3 right now. And, that's going to be interesting. Maybe Page can get back. They have some bumps and bruises and get themselves healthy for the playoffs. Summit, Old Sparty had the bye this week. They're coming in. They're rested. We're going to talk about who Old Sparty's going to match up with next week. When we come back from break, stay with us. We're going to have our pick'ems. We're going to talk about Week 10. We'll be right back.
When sharing the road, reaction time is important. Motorists should reduce their speed and avoid tailgating, especially in bad weather. Cyclists have the same rights and responsibilities as motorists. They should travel in the same direction on the right hand of the road and obey all traffic signals. Observing these rules provides predictability for both motorists and cyclists. Remember, same roads, same rules, same rights.
Welcome back to WCS Game Day. I'm your co-host, Jeremy Qualls, and with me, as always, is Tate Mathews. And here what we're going to talk about now, this segment, is Week 10, and then we're going to follow up with our favorite part, the Pick'em section. But let's talk about Week 10. Let's talk about these games coming up. We have Brentwood versus Indy. I find this very interesting, Tate, that Brentwood may be hoping or holding on to this shred of just maybe. If we get a win, we might get in. Indy, on the other hand, is kind of thinking, we need to win to get in. I find this game very interesting. Yeah,
you're right. It's Indy has to win to get in. It's not a we need to. It's a we have to win to get in, and then also to get better seeding in the playoffs. What you really want to do, first of all, you just want to get in. Number two, if you can, you'd like to stay away from Blackman or Oakland in the first round. Anything can happen, as they proved. They came 1 point from beating them, but you'd rather not see them again in the first round. But they have to play well. Brentwood, I think what you do right here is this is probably your senior's last game. Hey, let's go out with a win, man. Let's go out, play well. Let's have fun. Let's upset Independence, county rival, district rival, and go out and just, end this thing off with a win and playing well. But Independence has to play well because they're going to have to beat Brentwood. But if they start off the way they have the other games, on fire on offense, just too much firepower. Brentwood does not have anybody that can run with Dom Childress or Nate Johnson. If they get loose, going to be a long night for the Bruins.
Well, let's talk about from a coaching perspective from both sides. I know that Brentwood's looking at we can play the role of spoiler. And if, being on senior night, they may have that little bit of inspiration. And on the other side, Coach Blade is saying, let's get in because look at what we could do with Blackman. Let's have another shot at them. The downside of that in the coach's brain is thinking, we're not going to slip up on Blackman again. They're not going to allow that to happen. But maybe, just maybe, if we can get on that level playing field and get out there in the playoffs, anything can happen. That's why they play the game. And maybe those kids at the same time will think that their mental state is going to be key this week because they have lost so many heartbreakers this week. So, Centennial at Franklin. This is the game of the week, if you ask me, across the county in the WCS Sports Conference. This has got so many implications here. What do we know about that game?
Huge game. Well, first of all, anytime you get Centennial and Franklin together, kind of like the Battle of the Woods, it's a huge game. Franklin has 2 losses, but only 1 district loss. They're playing for a home playoff game. I said earlier Centennial in 6A. I misspoke on that. They're 5A. But same thing. They can go into this thing, finish out second in the district with 1 loss behind an undefeated Ravenwood team, and they're going to host a playoff game. So, and then there's so many things that go into this. Donnie Webb's the head coach of Franklin. His wife, Dr. Lee Webb, is principal of Centennial. And let me tell you something. If you know Dr. Webb, she's a former basketball player. She is competitive. So you've got that. Donnie was the defense at Franklin back when Brian Rector was the head coach at Ravenwood. And, man, there were some years where those Ravenwood-Franklin games were just huge games, so competitive back and forth. You got to think a lot of the Centennial kids, they used to be zoned for Franklin. A lot of those kids' parents went to Franklin High School. There's just a lot that goes into it. Throw on top of that, we got a lot of big-time players, both explosive offenses. They're different the way they do it, but this is going to be a great game. I really do think this is going to be one of the hardest ones to pick all year long.
Well, when they're going in, Franklin got all their wins early, and the meat of the schedule came at the last. You had to play Ravenwood, Independence, and Centennial to go into playoffs. Now, that's a good thing if you can win those. Going into playoffs give you that confidence because you're now completely battle-tested. They won the big game over Independence this week. In the dramatic fashion that they did. Centennial, once again, is that team, and I'm sure Coach Rector loves it this way, is kind of flying under the radar. It's just an interesting matchup. It's like you said, there's so many variables there with Dr. Webb being the principal there, and she's going to get him fired up, and she'll be the first to tell you she wants to beat Dr. Defense himself, her husband that she has to go home to every night because she's that competitive. Cougar Nation right now is a great student body. The Rebellion right now is, wow, they're up there high in the student power rankings, and they're going to travel well. They're going to go down there, and that both coaches are thinking, man, we've got to win this game to stay at home to avoid possibly going to the Rutherford County team.
That's right. And remember, Centennial, they were a little banged up early. And from being a coach, it seems sometimes these teams have a wake-up moment or whatever. And remember, they were down, I think it was 32-10 or 32-13 at halftime to Independence. And then they come back that second half. That thing was magical. And ever since then, they've been playing lights-out football. Who knows? That might have been what they needed. That was the special spark for this team to wake them up and get them playing like the way they need to be. And Centennial, very explosive when they're playing well. So, again, this is going to be a fun game, a really fun game.
Yep, it'd be very interesting. And we'll talk about in pick-ems who we're going to pick. But I think this game right here could go down, possibly, as the game of the year, just because of the implications. We know that Ravenwood's in. If it came down to Ravenwood and one of these two teams to get in for a home field advantage, that would be one thing. But this game is so big for both those coaches. So that's going to be a great one. The crowd will be there. It'll be loud. It'll be a great atmosphere. It'll be just a fantastic game.
And this is the last year it will be for a district standings. Remember,
that's right.
We're going to the Super 6 next year. Ravenwood and Franklin are the only two that are going to be in 6A. Obviously, they're going to keep playing those games, but Week 10, it's for district standings. Last time it's going to be like that. It's going to be great. Can't wait.
Well, since you're on that, let's talk about that. In that Super 6 conference, the 6A conference, the top 32 teams are in. Obviously, Franklin and Ravenwood will be competing at that level. At the 5A level, we have Centennial and Brentwood literally less than 30 students away of getting bumped into that group, and Independence fall in that 5A group. In the 4A group, we have Page. And then in the 3A group, we have Fairview. Now, think about this, Tate. Hypothetically, we could bring home 4 state football championships next year.
That'd be unbelievable. And it is possible. I mean, that would a lot of things that have to go into it, but that would be, man, all the Director Cup points would just be, they'd be even.
That's correct. All right, moving on, we have the Raptors. G2 Par hosting Old Sparty and the Summit coming in. Summit still looking for that first win, coming into Ravenwood. Ravenwood's undefeated. There's a lot of things we could talk about. We could talk about a trap game. We could talk about this could possibly happen and Summit coming up there and bringing a Summit squad. But unfortunately, I'm telling you that when you play at Ravenwood, it is definitely a home field advantage for Ravenwood.
It is, and we, not to keep beating the same drum, this is a very mature Ravenwood team. They've got a lot to play for. We talked about it earlier. What happens this Friday night can decide where they get seated, which way they go. Do they go east? Do they go west? And remember now, Blackman goes to play Hoover at Hoover. If Hoover loses, I mean, if Hoover beats Blackman, Ravenwood is a #1 seed. So a lot to play for. They will be prepared against Summit.
I dare say that Blackman probably wishes they had that contract back with him, but at that time that doesn't matter. So go Hoover Bucks is all we can say. Fairview at Waverly. This is outside the WCS Sports Conference, but this is a big game for Fairview because it is inside their district. 8-1. Waverly sitting at 8-1, 6-1. A complete turnaround from last year. They went to Hickman County this week, beat Hickman County 41-20. It was 21-20 at one point in time, and then they blew the doors off. So interesting here. Fairview, this is a big, big game for them.
Big game for them. You need to follow up this huge Page win over Waverly. They're very good. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, and like you said, Waverly's got a lot of athletes. They have the confidence going their way. Fairview's going to have everything go right. I wish the Yellow Jackets the best of luck in that game. Once again, Waverly sitting 8-1. Page at Spring Hill, another game that can be interesting. Spring Hill has athletes. They're 4-5, 1-3. They have a 5-game losing streak, though. They got beat 33-34 at Columbia, so they could be on the downhill slide.
They have athletes. That's the scary thing for Page. Page is banged up. They were playing very well. They are really banged up, but Spring Hill has speed. So that's always scary, especially when you're playing younger players.
Yeah, and like you said, Page has lost a few players here in the last 2 weeks. They snapped their game-winning streak, their 4-game winning streak coming in at Fairview when they had game day at Fairview and the pink out and all that. Fairview played inspired, played well, had for the home crowd and won that game for that D2 rival. But Page, it'd be interesting to see not only physically but mentally, where are they coming in this game? This is a game that healthy Page can win 9 out of 10 times. But Spring Hill coming in, maybe some playoff implications with those guys trying to squeak in. I don't know, but seems interesting. So that brings us to our favorite segment of the show. It is time for the WCS Sports Conference Pick'em time. Let's start with Brentwood versus Indy. Before we start, I'm sitting at 22-7. I had to say this. Tate's sitting at 25-4. We've tightened things up. We're getting tight in the race here. So who you got, Brentwood versus Indy?
Independence.
He's going to go 9. He didn't even blink an eye. Going to Independence versus Brentwood. I'm going to agree with you on this. I just think that the implications of getting in and behind Bunch and those guys, the way they're playing, they've lost so many heartbreakers. This is a testament to Coach Blade. If he keeps those guys up and makes them believe that they can beat anybody, which I firmly believe that, and if those guys believe that, they will beat somebody. I'm putting already week 1 in the playoffs, upset alert. Whoever gets up against Indy, good luck with those guys. Indy rolls in this one on senior night at Brentwood. Let's go Centennial Franklin. This is a tough one to call.
This is the toughest one to call, I think, all year. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going with Centennial for 2 reasons.
Woo, Centennial.
This is tough. I'm going with Centennial for 2 reasons. Franklin has had murders row the past 3 weeks. It's at Centennial. I think Emmanuel Hall is the difference in this game. If he plays well, there's nobody who can catch him on Franklin's side.
I hate to tell you, not so fast, my friend. The rebellion comes into the Cougar Nation right there, and they still won right out from under their eyes. Franklin rolls on in there. They want that home field advantage. Franklin rolls, and they just barely by a coin flip squeaks by Centennial. Fairview at Waverly.
I'm going to go with the Yellow Jackets. I think Hunter Zimmerman's healthy and they're playing well. A lot of confidence right now. I'm going with Coach Hughes and the Yellow Jackets.
I'm going to agree with you too. That's going to be a huge win, probably biggest win of the year of the year for those guys. Having to beat Waverly, it's going to be a tough one. Page at Spring Hill.
I hate it. I don't like it at all. One reason, Page is so banged up. I just don't see any way they can win it. They need to get healthy and get ready. They're in the playoffs. They need to get healthy and get ready for that first round game. I'm going with Spring Hill and Coach Tom Turchetta.
Well, I'm going to go with Page, and I'll tell you why. Because I think that Michael Magochi right now is playing really well. And even though they've got a couple receivers hurt, he's going to be the difference maker. I'm going to select Page, the Patriots slide by Spring Hill. Last but not least, G2 Bar, Ravenwood versus Summit. Old Sparty, who do you have?
I love this old Sparty. I'm an old Sparty fan. Ravenwood will win, go 10-0. And remember, there's been a lot of success at Ravenwood. 10-0 for the first time in school history.
I love Sparty. I got my cup out here today, but the only way they're going to use the cup today is to drink coffee. I love you, Sparty. G2 Bar rolls again, goes undefeated. Thank you for joining us. This is Jeremy Qualls, co-host with me, Tate Mathews. This is WCS Game Day. We'll see you next time, and remember to be nice.